Go ahead, Brent and Daniel. The floor is yours.
Well, I just want to say that the word transhumanism is a big trigger word nowadays. But if you read the platform of the Transhumanist Party, you'll realize we're not this evil, nefarious, dark agenda group that wants to, nanoize everyone. I mean, there may be some people in the transhumanist movement, which is a very broad movement. It's kind of like the libertarian movement. You've got everyone from anarcho-capitalists to, socialists, anarchists. We are a very pro-facts, pro-evidence-based party, and it's hard to fight the headwind of all the conspiracy talk that gets put in with the word transhumanism. So just want to put that out there. Hey, Brett, great to see you. You're muted there. Gonna have to unmute.
Yeah, Daniel, while he's figuring it out, my question is the U.S. Transhumanist Party, does that mean that there's an international transhumanist and that you're the branch in the United States, or are you exclusive?
You can actually join the U.S. Transhumanist Party no matter where you live on Spaceship Earth, which is kind of unusual. But there are transhumanist movements all over the planet. And we're just the political one that since 2014, we ran our first national candidate, Zoltan Istvan. And we've run a candidate every national election cycle since. So we kind of wanted to keep the momentum going. I've even run for city council here where I live in Southern California 3 times since 2018, 2020, and 2022 as a transhumanist party candidate. And again, if you just go to our website, which is transhumanist-party.org, you can see all the information of what's in our platform. And it's not about the conspiracy stuff. We're about science, evidence, progress for humanity. There are Christian transhumanists. I'm a faith-based transhumanist. There are atheist transhumanists. So it runs the gamut. And so I think it's a tough fight against all the negative media hype that's out there. But right. I mean, you look at evolution. The thing that came before a multicellular organism was a single-celled organism. So they were transcellular, and it's like, we're just saying, does evolution stop with the current generation of Homo sapiens? Probably not. And if it's going to go on, we should go on in the most intelligent, rational, compassionate, curious way possible. That's what I see about the transhumanist idea and as a political party. And as my conception of the universe as a greater creator-based system, and we should be the greater creators inside that system.
Yeah. Actually, I listened to several different podcasts that I think it's Gennady, the organizer.
Our chairman.
Yeah. Gennady.
Or I keep confusing it. It's Gennady, or how do you say it, Brent? He keeps saying it doesn't matter. Gennady. But,
yeah.
Oh, he's still got a mic issue.
Okay. Well, we'll continue the conversation. I want to apologize, Daniel. There was a little bit of I don't want to say like hesitation or resentment or something about the word transhumanist, but for me, I'm very comfortable and I'm very thrilled that you're doing the work that you're doing, because ultimately, in my personal opinion, is we need a third party. No matter what, we need a third party, because right now they say we have a 2-party system, and that's bullshit. That's really crap. It's a 1-party system. Even the Democrats and the Republicans are not in agreement. But it's just it is a 1-party system. So my question to you is Tom and you running as write-in candidates, or are you actually going to be on the ballot?
We have some state ballot access movements in the works. It's different for every state. Some states it's very a low bar to get on. You get maybe 1,000 signatures, or you pay a fee, and but we'll for the most part be running a write-in campaign, and it's really a consciousness education raising. You could also use the word marketing effort for the ideas of progress driven by fact and evidence-based rational policies, which we don't have with the Democratic and Republican Party are just trying to out lesser of two evils each other. It's really a downward spiral. I mean, it's if it was a private pilot training lesson, you'd be wondering how to pull out of that death spiral, but our founding fathers of the American experiment were not in favor of political parties. They thought this was going to be a constitutional republic, and it would be always refining ideas of self-governance. That's what the American experiment is about, is to come up with the best ideas for self-governance and continuously improve upon them. It's a continuous improvement ethic.
Right. Let me ask you a legislative question. When you start mentioning being a write-in candidate, I researched a little bit about the complexity of being a write-in candidate, and I found it very shocking, because I think there's 8 states that do not allow write-in candidates, period. And then I think there's 35 states that require petitions, and I think there's another 8 states that actually you don't have to do anything to be a write-in candidate. So my question to you is it constitutional, because this is a federal election, is it constitutional for states to actually discriminate against the write-in candidate? Shouldn't, because one state allows it, shouldn't all states allow it? That's a question.
Yeah, this brings up the idea why there is no federal right to vote, and it's been proposed that the right to vote itself should be a federally protected right, and it hasn't been able to be put into law at the federal level yet. So it's still at the state level. Yeah, I think the FEC makes you register as a write-in candidate in some instances, but it's just like if you went into a restaurant and you couldn't order, toast because it's not on the menu. It's kind of like that scene from Five Easy Pieces where, okay, just bring me a sandwich, but hold the ham, hold the lettuce, and like, so it's, our political system needs a lot of reform. And I see Tom is joining us, so I will defer to my running mate, my main political partner there.
Yes, Thomas, thank you for joining us. We were just having a very... Okay. Well, is everything better? Is everything going fine now?
Seems to be. I'm just using the phone.
Okay. Very good. So Daniel was describing a little bit about the dynamics of the Transhumanist Party and some of the I guess policies or some of the ideas that you're trying to promote. I don't know if you want to take a few minutes right now. We're going to try to wrap this up within the hour. Right now we're in 15 minutes. So we have about 45 minutes left, and I really want everyone listening to this, Tom and Daniel, to really understand about your purpose and your passion, And so I'll let you go ahead and kind of guide the conversation at this point. Maybe I'll ask a question or two, but for the most part, you can go ahead. Thank you, Tom.
Sure. I started in the primary with about 20 different initiatives, and I've been paring them down as I found out, what really affected people, what people wanted to hear about, and so I got it down to 3, and I call it the Meta Initiative. And the 3 initiatives are the Earthling Initiative, which is all based on serious solutions right now. There's also the AI, or Artisanal Intelligence Initiative, which is focused on a lot of issues with AI. And the 3rd is the ET Initiative, the Extraterrestrial Initiative. And that, I think it's a very serious concern. Now that we know the U.S. government has admitted to off-world technologies, this type of thing. So it's a, right now the global conversation is all about AI with the proliferation of ChatGPT and other large language models. But I mark my words, within a year, the conversation will be about extraterrestrials. And we know that the U.S. government has a lot more that they're not letting on about this. But the fact that now they're setting up whole departments to focus on that kind of thing. But anyway, the primary issue is the Earthling Initiative, and
Whoa.
that is sorry. Sorry. Anyway, that's based on serious solutions right now. We know that there will be a lot of displacement due to AI automation, even during this campaign over the next few months. And so I'm using this campaign to share ideas, solutions that we have, that people have, that this is an open source campaign, so we're inviting all kinds of information in and sorting through those, because there will be a lot of displacement. And, if I was able to walk into the White House in January 2025, it would take months, if not a year or more, to get these ideas passed into law, and it would take even longer for them to have any real significance to American families. And we don't have that kind of time. So this is all about sharing ideas now, knowing that people are being displaced or have already been displaced. Now, I'm an AI advocate. I think this is a real opportunity and not a threat. And but there will be a lacuna of time where there will be displacement. Good people will lose good jobs, and that's a reality. And so, but I do see this as an opportunity because we have so many platforms now, like Etsy and YouTube, and ways for people to make money on their passions, on their hobbies. And so we need to see this as an opportunity and not as a threat. So that's the types of ideas that we're sharing. We've got a lot of ideas coming down the pike to help. And so that's what this is all about. That's what this campaign is all about. I know, my political advisors tell me not to say this, but I'm not delusional. I know I won't be winning the White House. But that's not the point of this. This is a marketing campaign for transhumanism. We're putting the human back in transhuman because our narrative has gotten away from us. People think that transhumanists have a dark agenda, but the fact is, if all of us right now, by commenting and communicating via technology, if you wear glasses, as I do, if we use Post-it notes, you are by definition a transhuman, because we are using technology as an extension of ourselves. We always have done that. If we didn't have technology like clothing or shelter, we naked apes would be dead and extinct within a generation or less. And so when you put a label on it like transhumanism, that causes a lot of conflict. It causes a lot of controversy because people don't understand what that is. But by definition, we are all transhuman. If we didn't have technology, if we didn't use technology. Now, the thing about transhumanism is it's a way to enhance our abilities. And that's really all we've ever done anyway, as humans. And so, again, this is a campaign. It's more of a marketing campaign for transhumanism, to seize back our narrative. And so the Earthling Initiative, the first initiative, is all about putting the human back in transhuman. So I don't know if Daniel wants to pick up on any of that.
I've got some ideas on that one, Tom, actually. I think that there's three things that are happening at the community level, I think around the world, really. And those are emergency preparedness teams, which one is called CERT here in the United States. Community Emergency Response Teams is training you can take. And it basically means you're available to help out. And there's a disaster, earthquake, some kind of thing that there isn't enough personnel to help with. Okay, so that's one. The other movement I see going on, sometimes it's connected to CERT, is the amateur radio, which is a worldwide movement. I've got my call sign there on the screen. I actually got the extra class license certification, which lets you use maximum amounts of privileges and all the bands available. So that's a great peer-to-peer communication system. You can't do commercial transactions unless you're buying or selling stuff for your ham shack, which is one of the little insider terms. They call it ham radio in some places because various people were hams or they were ham-handed when they did Morse code. But anyway, it's not broadcasting, it's peer-to-peer. And with the digital options available, hooking your computer to your ham radio, it's your amateur radio, it's really amazing what you can do. So those are two things. The third thing I really think is great is the maker movement. Maker spaces are kind of like gyms for using tools. You have a monthly membership fee and you can go to this place and you can use a whole bunch of cool tools, 3D printers, laser cutters, laser etchers, water jet cutters sometimes. And you can just let your imagination run wild if you want to make something creative or something useful. You know, there was a huge open source movement by the maker movement to build ventilators when we were in the throes of the pandemic, and there literally weren't enough respiratory support machines for people to keep from dying in hospitals. So it turns out you can make those very easily. They're not medically approved, but hey, if it's an emergency, you don't need to wait for official approval, you know. And that's kind of I think we are in that kind of evolutionary bottleneck emergency where we should just go ahead and not wait for the officially sanctioned political and government institutions. In lots of cases, this is a DIY time of evolution. So I think the convergence of those three things, the maker movement, amateur radio, and emergency preparedness teams, are going to do things to bring about food security and resilience for power, and for, you know, if the economy crashes, we can still trade, you know, labor credits of skills amongst neighbors. So these are all things we can do without government waving their little magic wand of bureaucracy. You know, we can do this all on voluntary peer-to-peer kinds of terms. So that's what I would add to Tom's Earthling initiative, and I'll be writing this up hopefully soon in a white paper to officially add it there, Tom.
Yeah,
Great.
it's great. It's all very good stuff. And again, we don't need to wait for the government to do any of this stuff. Our government is made up of us, we the people, and we've been distracted from our real power, and that's been on purpose. And so this is even. You know, I think of the ET initiative. They are not, the government is not preparing the American public for disclosure. And I believe that's because they want to keep us in this low state of panic at all times. And we're easier to control when we're like that. Let me see if this is working. Okay. The fact that they are not preparing the American public for disclosure, they're not preparing us for, there's no panic mitigation methods going on. And to me, that just shows me that this is a national psyop to keep the black budgets in the black, to keep the military industrial complex fueled by our panic. And we need to understand that, first of all. We're also seeing a lot of divide and conquer algorithms out there, especially now with the, with this election year. We're going to see more of that because the Democrats and the Republicans need those to get the primary voters out there. They need to poke at our fears and what makes us angry to increase engagement. And I think that's one of the problems with our election system in this country is the primary. Because in order to get primary voters out, they're either really good critical thinkers and they want to get involved that way, or they're easily misled and they can, and with culture wars and wedge issues, that's why these people come out to vote, most of them, because they are afraid or they're angry. And the Republicans and the Democrats understand that, and that's how they get these primary voters out there. And so, but and that's, we've got initiatives in the AI initiative that will help with that. At least letting people in on the fact that there's these very sophisticated divide and conquer algorithms out there that are bombarding us daily, every moment, by enemies, foreign and domestic. The foreign are the authoritarian regimes that are trying to foment civil war, and the domestic enemies are our own social media companies who are using even AI, narrow AI systems to create more engagement, to make people fearful, to make people angry, because then they'll engage more, and then they can charge more for their advertising. And so we need to understand that that's happening, and it is happening en masse, and it's on autopilot. It's an age-old tactic, divide and rule. And now it's a constant bombardment every day, every moment that we are getting. And that's why our attention span has been shortened down to 47 seconds at last count. And so I did a series of 47-second videos about some of these issues. And one thing is, the one way to combat that is what I call an intention span. And every morning before you start scrolling, turn on the listening device if it's not already on, and that's often the default for some of these devices. Is to turn on the listening device and then speak to your device what your intentions are for the day, for the week, for as long as you want, and you'll see that these algorithms will start working for you instead of against you. When you tell it what you want, when you put out subject matters in there that you're interested in, it'll pick up on that, and it'll start feeding you information that relates to your intentions. And so that's one way to combat this, but that's just one way. And so we need to understand, first of all, that we are being bombarded by these divide and conquer algorithms every moment, and find out ways to make them work for us.
It reminds me of someone once said, politics is the scheme by which you use the votes of the poor and the money of the rich and promise both sides protection from each other. And it's really a protection racket based on trading your liberty for security, which as Ben Franklin said, you deserve neither if you trade your liberty for security. But you got the Republican Party, they got the riches, and you got the Democrats, they got the poor and the votes, and they're both trying to whip up, like you said, Tom, this elite panic kind of dynamic. And yeah, I mean, it's like, how do you get out of a protection racket? Well, you get together with your neighbors and you say, we ain't taking this.
I also have another interesting perspective on what we're discussing with these polarization games and things like that. And I think that it's even deeper rooted. I mean, look, going back to Zarathustra, and the origin of monotheism and humanity. It was this fight against chaos and order, and it just keeps going from there, and all of these different archetypal forms of the same fight and the same conflict and the same polarization. And there's just so many of these polarity games on these spiritual planes. And then you start to look into new age movements, and it even sucks people in. And going back to what you're saying, Tom, about disclosure, so many of these new age movements kind of just echo Christianity in the sense that even when they are providing people with insights on these more esoteric topics, they always seem to sell a savior, whether it's the government coming clean about everything they do and fixing it all for us, or the aliens are coming to save the day, or AI is going to just take the wheel and do it all for us. And all of those, just seem to fall short because it's putting control into these external places, and it creates more of this polarity, because then even when you have all of the facts, if you're just relying on something outside of yourself, then it's another polarity game of whether or not someone's going to believe that like Jesus is the guy that we all need to trust is going to come back, or if, it's going to be the aliens or whatever it might be, Stargates, whatever it is. And so, I think that it's helpful to be self-aware about all that stuff. And I agree that these algorithms are very hurtful and damaging in these types of situations, because it really pulls us through those rabbit holes. But on the other end of this, kind of spectrum, it pulls us through those rabbit holes so quickly that it seems to be forcing humanity through this global shadow work where we're being exposed to our shadow, where it pulls us along. It's like, this is what you're going to believe. And then, is this really what you believe? And you're just kind of like always at odds ends with your own, actual worldview. And it's just constantly changing. And you're constantly being shown things that are conflicting with everything. And to a point where a lot of people get to this place where they're just like, I don't understand. Like, I don't know, and it's almost more dangerous though to be on the other end of the spectrum, be like, I know everything, I have all the answers, and I think that there's a healthy balance that can be found. And I think that there are things that, people, there are things that people know, and then there are things that we don't know, and I think that trying to fill in the blanks for a sense of security is dangerous. But it's I think that there's for me, it's a perspective thing. Like, I agree with what Tom's saying about all of these malicious capabilities of algorithms and things like that. But I just try to have this big picture, seeing it further out down the line and hoping that it's catalyzing some sort of change within the human global psyche. So
if I could throw in a little bit of a correction, I think you were talking about Zoroastrianism, not Zarathustra. And that is one of the world's oldest Zoroastrianism.
Zarathustra was the prophet in Zoroastrianism. He was who encountered, the one singular Godhead, and reported back saying that it was divided in two, and that there was order, and that there was chaos. And the Zoroastrians went on to, revere order, essentially.
Oh, you're right. That's the Greek rendering of the name of the prophet. But yeah, that was the first monotheistic, and it was dualism. It's ought to be with us or against us, one way or the other. And that kind of binary thinking is exactly what excludes all the possibilities in between. And it's, we don't need that kind of everything's black and white thinking in this age. So yeah, thanks for letting me clarify there.
Yeah, thank you all three for sharing. I wanted to make a couple of comments if I can here. What I'm hearing, I'm really enjoying, and it really harmonizes with the work that I'm personally doing right now. Today, I'm not going to be able to describe it all. I am in Brazil, and I'm on an island called Evolution Island. And here on this island, we have a quantum 5D research center. And we actually do the things that Tom was mentioning with the AI and also ET intelligence. And to make a long story short, with the Disclosure Project, I'm very close with Stephen Greer and Emily. And also working now in New Mexico with Derek Garcia. I don't know does anyone know about Derek Garcia, the attorney that has the class action suit with over 200 whistleblowers. And Derek Garcia is a constitutional law attorney, and he is pro bono trying to get in front of Congress to open up the files. So the things related to ET intelligence, Congress, both House and Senate, are very aware of the seriousness, because there's criminal activities happening and have been happening that have prevented this information from reaching humanity. I mean, we are talking about the solutions for everything. I mean, Tom mentioned the fact that AI could jeopardize jobs and could displace workers, which means more homelessness, unemployment, and what have you. But the realities are the AI technology that we're involved with, and this is real. This is not like a futuristic thing. This is happening now. And disclosure is going to happen. It's not something that might happen. And if it doesn't happen, we're going to do it privately. We don't need the government. Just like you said, we don't need to wait for the government to tell us what to do. We're independent people. And that's what the United Nations, the Republic, is all about, is empowering every individual, not only every American, but every human being. 8 billion people on Earth. We need to empower these people, and we don't need to genocide more people like in Africa. They're saying that they're trying to eliminate all the Africans because basically they're worthless, which is ridiculous. How we treat each other on a human level, like you said, Tom, bringing the human back into the system is what we need, because we rely so much on technology, and it's not even good technology. You know, the technology that we're talking about, extraterrestrial intelligence, has an unlimited power source. I'm not saying free energy. I'm not proposing free anything. Even freedom, the word freedom doesn't mean that it's free. You know, everything requires your time and your attention. And so I just want to make a few comments also related to Daniel and your comment about the ham radio. That is the solution for all of our problems, is using an analog localized system. And I don't know if you're aware of Dr. David Howie. Dr. David Howie, who by chance I think is in Colorado from the NIST, the National Institute of Science and Technology. Dr. David Howie just discovered this past year the quantum radio frequency. And this is a low voltage of bandwidth that is not like a 5G signal. It does not emit harmful radiation. This is a quantum. And the way that they distribute the quantum wave is using ham radio, is using an analog localized LAN, a local area network, not connected with the internet. Because literally everything that we are saying and doing, we're connected right now on the internet. And thank God we haven't been blocked off or knocked off or whatever. We're doing something right by keeping the communication channels open. Thank God. But at any moment, the U.S. people don't realize this. There's a point. It's called .00. That is where longitude and latitude are zero. That's off the coast of West Africa. It's actually an island that they call Null Island. And this island is not an island. It's a buoy. It's a buoy, and it's not a fixed point because it's 14,000 meters deep to the ocean floor. This buoy floats in the ocean and moves up and down, up and down. What people don't realize is that all of our communication satellite base is beamed off of this island. It's called the busiest island in humanity, because all of the data errors, and we have a lot of data errors, it's a data dump. It's called the data dump. It's called Null Island. It's also called soul, like our consciousness. And it's also called unconditional love. And so people don't realize that this buoy is managed by the United States, France, and Brazil. It's a trilateral agreement. At any moment, they can switch one switch and it will totally shut everything off. Everything. You wouldn't have any communication other than what Daniel just mentioned, the ham radio system. And now with the technology advancement with ham radio, we can connect directly to data streams so that we can stream videos and we can do everything that you can do on the internet. Everything. And it doesn't, I don't want to say it's free. Once again, it's not free. But the antenna that we're using, you can go to Radio Shack and for $100, you can buy a transmitter and a receiver for the quantum radio signal. You don't need like a major communication station. Actually, on the island here at where I am in Evolution, we have a drone. We have a drone that's being developed by Embraer, which is the Brazilian aviation company like Boeing. They just went public in the New York Stock Exchange about a year ago for a project called EVE, EVE. Most people don't know about Project EVE. It's a big secret. But what we're doing with our team of quantum physicists and scientists and all sorts of people all across the world, we have over 5,000 collaborators that work together. What we're doing is exposing everything. We don't have patents. We don't have secrets. What we want is to save humanity. And we want everyone to benefit from the knowledge and consciousness that we all share. Because we have one consciousness. We are a computer. This is where transhumanist comes in. Because we are actually a simulation. And it's not me saying that. Scientists believe, 99.9% of all scientists believe that we are computer simulation. So we need to come to terms with those understandings. And so what I want to do, I know today we're coming on only 20 minutes left to the hour. If people here, Daniel, Tom, Brent, if you'd like to stay on, Right after, at the top of the hour, we are communicating with Sierra Leone, with Freetown, Africa. And what we're trying to do is make a bridge between Brazil, the United States, and Africa. And quite honestly, our foreign policy in Africa is awful. In the UK and other, mostly the UK, because they're naturally the history of the African continent, the UK it's been their colony, or they've been in control. But the problem, guys, is the BRICS. People aren't talking about the problem of BRICS, the Brazil, Russian, India, and China agreement. And that is a big problem. Our foreign policy here in Brazil is atrocious. And we are losing, if you want to say a battle against communism, it's almost over. It's almost over. And they're censoring everything here in Brazil. Even like Rumble, a platform like Rumble, you're not allowed to use that here. And even me having this conversation today is a miracle that I'm actually able to talk like this. Not that I'm against government or anything like that. I'm not an anarchist or anything. I'm a truth seeker. And like Daniel said, based on facts, based on science, and based on mathematical proofs. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about some belief system or some opinion. What we're trying to do is really come to the core solutions to the problems that we face. In AI, I agree with Tom. The solution is AI. We're not going to avoid it. We're not going to avoid it. And it doesn't need to be avoided. And this gets to something that Brent said, related to our staying ahead of the curve. In blockchain science, all is required is that you have one noid that's a good noid above the bad noid or the evil or whatever deception. That's all you need is one. You don't have to have a whole army. It's not in the numbers, not power in the numbers. When you start looking at computer information technology, it's all about the noids and how you connect those noids. And that's why, Daniel, you mentioned the ham radio, which really, for me, was music to my ears, because really that is the solution. If our government, the U.S., Brazil, and France decide that they're going to shut off the satellites, they can do that at any moment. If the COVID-19 and all of the problems worldwide with the vaccine and all of that is meaningless if they just shut off the system, literally the financial markets, every market, hospitals, firefighters, emergency medical people, like you were saying, Daniel, all of these services, we are totally dependent on the satellites. And that is not a good scenario for humanity at all. And so I don't want to continue. We have 15 minutes left. I just want to plant the seed and let you know that I support you, both of you, as candidates. I unfortunately have never voted in my life as an American. I registered to vote one time, but I tell you, if I am for the third party. I'm not going to say I don't care what third party, but right now we just need a third party. And then after that, then we can work together and we can get you in the transhumanist movement into office. At least, maybe not as president, but at least maybe as like a minister of science and technology or minister of health, or, as president of the United States, we nominate, a president nominates thousands of positions, thousands. And so being president, vice president, congratulations if that happens. And I'm behind you, and I'll be here. I'm going to stay in Brazil for personal reasons. I don't need to get into all of the details. But if you need an ambassador to Brazil, for example, as president, you can nominate somebody. And I would love to be the U.S. ambassador to Brazil. I would love that. I've been here 25 years. I've seen all of the shenanigans here. And the U.S. policy is broken in South America. And what we need, in my opinion, is in Americas, just like the European Union. We need all of Canada all the way down to Argentina, Tierra del Fuego. We need one agreement, including Venezuela, including Cuba. And now Argentina is in a mess, and the financial systems Yeah, I don't need to get into it all, but I just want to make sure that you hear clearly that I'm here to support you. You know, the
Mhm.
work that Brent's doing and all your team is commendable. I really applaud you for all of the efforts. The things that you're talking about are in perfect harmony with the things that we're doing, and we have a lot of resources to help you. You know, the legislative side is something that I don't really have. And before Tom, you got on, I had asked a question about the legality, the constitutional legality of a write-in candidate. It seems to me on a federal election, a state election's different. Every state can decide their election rules statewide and local elections. Federally, when you have three rules that you follow as a write-in candidate, some of the states don't even allow you that. You, as a voter in a state, you can't even vote a write-in. And then other states require these crazy petitions that you have to sign, which the supervisor of elections never accept the petitions. If you sign a petition and it's not exactly the way that in microfile, exactly the way that the voter originally signed their voting card, they reject the petition. They reject it. And so the petition requirement is a loophole for people not to get on the ballot or not to be a write-in. And I think 35 states in the U.S. require petitions, and I think there's 8 states that don't require anything. You literally don't have to do anything up until the foreign ballots, they start coming in maybe a month before, early voters and things like that. So if you're going to be a write-in candidate and you want the expats to back you up, which there's not a lot of them. I think there's about 2 million Americans that live actually abroad. It's a very small percentage. Everyone wants to go to the U.S. That's the problem with immigration. The jobs are there in the U.S. So my question, not really a question, but maybe you can help resolve, is it unconstitutional the way that the write-in candidates are required right now? And I'll let you have the floor. We have about 10 minutes. You're welcome to stay on the call. We're going to be having a whole group of people from Sierra Leone, Africa. And Sierra Leone in Freetown is the epicenter for slave trade. It is the first place that actually we traded humans. And so we're going to be working, we're having a project there that we're doing which involves AI, and the Minister of Science and Technology in the UK. Specifically, the UK right now is a technology. I don't know if I've broken up a little bit, but anyways, what I was
Okay.
saying is that the UK is kind of overcome us for AI technology, and we want to reverse that. I'm an American. I live here in Brazil, but I'm a Portuguese American. I want to try to make that bridge between Latin America, open up the Americas, and let's transform Venezuela, for example, and let's enforce Panama. For God's sakes, all the people that are going in on the border there in Texas and California are coming through Panama. And they have boats and stuff, and they're giving them food and they're enticing them. We need to stop Panama in the canal and from all of this migration coming into the United States. So once again, go ahead. We have a few minutes left. Stay on if you have patience and time, because the next conversation is going to be very interesting. Thank you everyone so much for your time. And I'll let you go ahead and wrap it up, Tom. You can go ahead, and Daniel, and then also Brent. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Well, first of all, you don't have to be an American to be a member of the USTP, of the U.S. Transhumanist Party. We have ambassadors all over the place, all over the world, and so that's important to understand, that you don't have to be an American to be a part of the U.S. Transhumanist Party. But also, when it comes to the border, I've got one solution that I've written an article about. It's called the Border Prosperity Zone. I think we need to flip, and in the article, I started out with an idea that when my son was younger, he used to, map, like get all the light out of his room. He would, put things on the windows. He would seal the cracks in the door frame, and as any father would to a teenage boy, I kidded him and I said, well, why not just put a blindfold on when you come in? It'd be the same effect, with less effort. And I think that's an idea of how we can flip the script on seeing the border as a problem. One idea is to have a prosperity zone where where we can invite private companies to it'd be like a mall along key parts of the border, and it'll be a way to process people, whether they're seeking political asylum or whatever. But it's a matter of the agricultural companies along the border in America require illegal immigrants because Americans won't pick those strawberries, or they won't do that work. And so that's why it's been an issue for so long, and why they haven't found a solution. But so why not lean into that, and see it as a way to create profits for American companies and Mexican companies. So we're looking into that. We're developing ideas. We're reaching out to immigration attorneys on both sides, and see if this is even feasible, if this has ever been thought of. But I think it's really a way we need to reconsider. Money talks, and that's the way we could solve this problem, is if private companies see the profit potential. And that's one way to approach this. I think we do need to flip the script, because our engagement is increasing because people, these algorithms are poking at our biases and making us afraid or making us angry. And that's just because civil war is great for ratings and revenue, right? That's why the corporate media wants to foment this idea. So anyway, that's kind of one idea with solving the immigration era problem, is to flip the script, see it as a potential profit for American companies and Mexican companies. So that's one solution.
I'd like to mention something on the topic of islands. I'm a part of a team that's going for the Carbon Giga Prize, the X Prize for carbon removal, and we are proposing. You can find the website at tuvalu51.org, but a whole archipelago of islands, man-made islands around the equator, about 40 kilometers wide. And the equator is interesting because you don't get the big hurricane force winds and waves at that zone. So really, if humans were free to colonize the equator with artificial islands, we could provide for all of the needs of humanity, and we could fix the carbon problem and the thermal runaway problem in the ocean. So I think seasteading is a very great potential for humanity, and we've got some support for that in the Transhumanist Party. Freedomhaven.org is one outfit that's doing some great engineering work along those lines. And I really want to find out more about this quantum radio thing there, David. So
yeah, great. Mohammed, can you mute yourself, please, Mohammed? Thank you. Yeah, Daniel, I don't want to take up because we have a few minutes, and I want Brent to say a closing remark. But have you heard of Lifeboat in Eric Klein? The Lifeboat Foundation.
One of the early members.
Oh, great! Because that's exactly that's probably where this concept came from. They have over 2,000 of the best scientists in the world that are collaborating. So we have the intelligence. In the work that you're doing with the quantum radio, if we can help you with that and introduce that, I would love to. So let's have Brent. I know that some of the people in Africa now are starting to come from Sierra Leone. We're expecting to put together 12, it's called the Circle of 12 Blue Angels. And Mohammed, who is with us, is the chairman of the Circle of 12. But I'll let Brent, and then maybe Tom, you can just say a final remark. And once again, if you want, stay on. Otherwise, we'll communicate, and I'll primarily talk with Brent. Okay? Brent will be the point of contact. Thank you. Go ahead, Brent.
Appreciate it, David. Yeah, I've known Eric for years. Lifeboat Foundation is very interesting, without a doubt. And, talking about immigration and things related to that, the poem at the feet of the Statue of Liberty comes to mind, just to quote part of it. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. And it continues on about, the history of our country, and I think that it's fairly myopic to think that the buck stops here when it comes to, facilitating immigration into our country. If you look into just basic, financial reports about countries, immigration policies and, how it pans out for them going forward, countries that allow immigration, it stimulates the economy, and countries that prevent immigration, it has a detrimental effect. It's, pretty clear cut there. And so far as going back to the question at hand, whether or not I believe it's constitutional to have these requirements and to force people to jump through these hoops in order to allow us to vote for them for these elections. Yeah, I absolutely think that it is unconstitutional. I think that it just feeds this corporate oligarchy structure that we have by forcing candidates to be required to have this amount of money. And when you look into, the amount of the elections over the last, however, I remember reading a statistic recently that was talking about elections in the United States over the last 10 years or 20 years or since the 90s, maybe even. And they were talking about how it was something close to like 95%. It was over 90% of elections within the last however long in the United States. The winner has been the guy with the most money. And that it's just very, it's like very, very rarely is that not the case. Every once in a while a dog wins mayor in some random town or something like that. I imagine that's the other 5%, but, there is an absolute filter for how people are allowed to get into that society. It seems like it's a democratic process and this and that, but at the end of the day, there's a lot more bureaucracy and politics, and not democratic politics, but corporate politics and things like that that are required, to be done by these candidates that even get to a place where their, bill is being footed by people that are capable of providing them with a campaign that is something that's going to go national, even or even local, for that matter. If you look at, local elections, for mayors and governors and things like that, it's still fairly, it's people that are just, and I mean, for good reason in a certain degree, when you're looking at those types of elections, those people are generally, you're not having someone like Trump who's, in this whole different sector of society, just like kicking in the door and becoming governor too frequently. And I mean, it can be said both ways that it's helpful to have this outsider into those types of positions. But, also could be said that it's helpful to have the insider because of their awareness of, where all the buttons are to press kind of thing. So, but whether or not the processes right now that we have in place are ethical or constitutional, as you put it, I don't think so personally. So.
Go ahead, Tom. Maybe you can wrap up and other people are going to start jumping on.
The Republicrats are a two-headed snake, and they feed on our anger and our fear. Honestly, the Republicans and the Democrats, they don't meet the minimum system requirements for what's coming. The economic and the technological singularities are real. And that's all the Transhumanist Party talks about. We are preparing policy for these things. And again, they are not backing the American public. The fact that they are not preparing us to mitigate panic when disclosure really hits a lot of people. It's going to take some time, but how do we keep our neighbors and our friends and family from freaking out when they become aware that this is real? And so that's why we need to take the bull by the horns ourselves as citizens. And so that's really where what we're talking about with this campaign, is how to seize back our power.
Yes, it's we the people, we the people. Thank you so much, Tom Ross and Daniel Teague and Brent, so much for your time today. Like I said, now we're going to try to move. We're on the top of the hour. This is the Power of Islands podcast, and I'm your host, David the Indian. You're welcome to stay and join us. We do this once a month, and it's called Soul Weekend. We do it on the third weekend of every month, so our calendar is easy to follow, and we would be delighted to continue to have you on the show so that we can help stream your message so that we can get you in office. I'm really happy with what I'm hearing today. We're in total alignment, and I think we can add a lot of value and it doesn't cost anything, and I'm willing to do it for nothing. I don't want some. We want to save humanity, and we really want to empower all of our people on this earth. And so once again, thank you, Tom and Daniel and Brent.